The Cleveland Browns have done something you almost have to see to believe. It's not just that they've started the season 0-2. It's not just that fans are booing Joe Flacco. It's not even the fact that they've rotated through more quarterbacks than some teams carry socks. No, it's the way this team has managed to collapse under the weight of its own confusion that's truly breathtaking. Because right now, the Browns might be the only team in the NFL that has not one, not two, but four quarterback storylines spinning out of control at the same time. Let's break that down. You've got Joe Flacco, the 39-year-old former Super Bowl MVP, who now looks like he's throwing in underwater slow motion. Behind him is Dylan Gabriel, a rookie with promise, but plagued by batted balls, inconsistency, and whispers of him being damaged goods before he even takes over. Then, hovering just outside the spotlight is Shadeur Sanders, a rising name many fans believe could be the guy, even though he hasn't played a snap yet. And looming in the shadows, Deshaun Watson, still under contract, still working out quietly, and somehow still not completely ruled out as part of this mess. This isn't a quarterback controversy. It's a full-blown, high-speed quarterback multi-car wreck. And the Browns are spinning donuts right in the center lane. What makes this situation different from the usual mid-season panic is that everyone seems to know it's happening. The fans, the media, the casual viewers watching Red Zone. But nobody inside the building seems to know what to do with it. Browns fans have seen bad quarterback play. They've invented the infamous jersey with 32 busted QB names duct-taped one after another. But this season might go down as the first time they have to add 3 new names in a single year. Right now, the Browns look like a team without a plan. Worse, they look like a team trying to juggle plans while blindfolded. Let's look at where things stand. Joe Flacco was never supposed to be the long-term answer, but even short-term, it's gone especially bad. His mobility is non-existent. His arm, once a cannon, now looks like someone winding up a lawnmower. He's throwing late, missing open reads, and defenses know it. They're stacking the line, daring him to beat them over the top, and he can't. Even insiders are starting to drop hints, saying things like, he won't last 6 games playing like this, or, more bluntly, he's cooked. And while Flacco struggles, Dylan Gabriel quietly waits in the wings, a rookie with just enough tools to get fans curious, but not enough on tape to make coaches commit. Reports from training camp describe good flashes, sure, but also batted passes, panicked decisions, and a tendency to disappear in big moments. His appearance in the last game was brief but intentional. It told everyone watching he's next. Maybe not this week, but soon. Then there's Shadeur Sanders, the wild card. Fans are calling for him, loudly. Chants of "We want Shedeur" have echoed through the stands. On social media, #FreeShadeur is trending. You'd think he'd started in 5 NFL games already by the way he's discussed. But here's the thing. Inside the building, there's silence. Stefanski hasn't even brought him up. Media asks, and the coach sidesteps, saying, "We win as a team, we lose as a team." Which is another way of saying, we have no idea how to clean this up. Even the national media is asking when the Browns will stop pretending they have everything under control. Opinions are swinging wildly. Some say Gabriel should get his shot right now. Others want Shedeur in by Halloween. And some even believe Deshaun Watson, yes, birthday-celebrating Deshaun Watson, could be back before Thanksgiving to complete the chow. Want a stat that's almost poetic? The Browns had 4 quarterbacks in camp. That alone was weird. But now, as the dust settles on week 2, every one of those 4 QBs has either already played, is being speculated to start soon, or is trending online due to fan desperation. It's dizzying. And we're only 2 games in. Here's the wild part. This should be a terrifying team to face. They have a legit top 3 defense. Their rookie class looks fantastic. Their running game is solid. They have elite talent in the building. But none of it matters when the entire team is waiting to see who and what their quarterback is. Even fantasy football owners have checked out. Nobody's touching the Browns' offense except for the defense and maybe the kicker. So here's the real question. Are the Browns really planning anything? Do they have a QB plan? Or are they just scrambling from one half-baked solution to the next? Week 1 wasn't catastrophic. Week 2 was worse. Week 3? Dangerous. Because what happens when Flacco plays poorly again? As expected, and Gabriel gets thrown into a hostile stadium mid-game. And what happens after that? When people realize Gabriel has the same issues they saw in preseason? When does Sanders finally step in? And what will be left for him to lead? Because in this saga, it's not just about finding the right quarterback. It's about whether the Browns, staring at another lost season and 2 premium picks in the upcoming draft, are capable of breaking the cycle. Or adding 3 more names to the back of a jersey that already looks like a cursed scroll. At some point, you wonder if the Browns are the only ones who haven't noticed. Joe Flacco is not just struggling, he's unraveling. Slowly, predictably, painfully. The 39-year-old veteran, who was once the centerpiece of a Super Bowl run and a living example of cool in the clutch, is now nothing more than a symbol of hesitation. Not just in his throwing motion, but in the Browns' refusal to face the obvious. Let's be clear, this isn't about respect. Flacco's resume is real. He's thrown for over 40,000 yards, has a Super Bowl MVP trophy, and gave the Ravens a decade of stability. But this version of Flacco? It's a shadow. The arm strength comes and goes. The mobility is gone. The processing speed is fine until it's not. Defenses aren't just challenging him. They're daring him to throw beyond the sticks, and he can't. Or worse, he won't. Through the first 2 weeks, the numbers are as brutal as the film. He's slow in the drop back, late on outs, off target on deep balls, and panics under pressure. Statistically, he's near the bottom of the league in completion percentage beyond 15 yards, and his time to throw is a full tick slower than the league average. In a league built on speed and space, he's a static statue in a Thunderdome. Even the Browns' own beat writers, usually tame, are questioning why he still has the job headed into Week 3. The locker room might not say it out loud, but you can feel it. Tension in film sessions, heads shaking after missed opportunities, veterans who know they're wasting elite defensive efforts because their offense is stuck in mud. Still, somehow, Stefanski isn't ready to make the switch. Publicly, he's defending Flacco with rehearsed lines like, "We win as a team," and "We're not reacting emotionally." But that's becoming harder to sell. The tape says what the headlines won't. Cleveland isn't just playing slow. They're coaching not to offend a veteran. Even fantasy outlets are advising viewers to fade all Browns wide receivers until something changes at QB. The problem isn't just that Flacco is playing poorly. The problem is that everyone sees exactly how this ends, and Stefanski refuses to get ahead of it. Even in the losses, Flacco hasn't taken full blame, and that's creating division. By sticking with a quarterback clearly on borrowed time, the coaching staff appears stubborn, or worse, paralyzed. Which brings us to the short leash. Sources close to the team say the Browns internally gave Flacco a 4 to 6 game runway. But heading into Week 3, with the Packers looming and the team staring down 0-3, patience is crumbling. Another ugly outing could force their hand, and Gabriel's number may be called not out of confidence, but out of necessity. That's not how you draw it up. You don't bench a veteran just because the pressure builds. You bench him because you believe in your next guy. And right now, nobody seems sure who the next guy really is. Flacco might survive another start, but if he does, nobody will believe it's because he earned it. They'll assume the Browns just want to delay the inevitable for one more week. And in football, nothing's worse than watching a team pretend it isn't happening, while everyone else is screaming it already has. If Joe Flacco is the quarterback the Browns are clinging to out of fear, Dylan Gabriel is the quarterback they're eyeing out of scarcity. He's next, not necessarily because he's ready, but because nobody else is less ready. That's what makes this situation so precarious. Because while fans and media scream for change, change is only a good thing if there's something better waiting behind it. And right now, Dylan Gabriel isn't giving anyone confidence that he's the answer. At least, not yet. The phrase we keep hearing is, raw but talented. That's the nice way of saying there are flashes, and there are problems. In practice, Gabriel's reps have been described as inconsistent. Some throws are crisp, well-timed lasers across the middle, the type that make you say, okay, I see it. But others? Batted balls, hesitant footwork, and erratic throws that flutter like someone pressed the wrong button on Madden. Much of that was clear in preseason. Quick highs, slow recoveries, and long stretches without rhythm or control. During training camp, insiders noted one troubling trend. Gabriel struggled to string together good days. One day he'd pull off a slick scrambling rollout. The next, he'd throw 3 picks in a red zone drill. Coaches want to believe in potential, but what they haven't seen is progression. Worse, some players have started talking, not on camera, but off the record. According to one source, at least one receiver said privately, "You just don't know what version of him you're getting today." That's not exactly a show of locker room faith. Scenes. But for all of his flaws, it's also unfair to pile the failures of the Browns' quarterback room entirely onto Gabriel's shoulders. After all, he wasn't supposed to be in this spot, not this early. As talent evaluators pointed out since draft day, Gabriel should have been treated like a developmental player, given time, packaged into safe schemes, and eased in with spot drives. Instead, due to Flacco's regression and Watson's total uncertainty, Gabriel's timeline is being fast-tracked, but increased pressure doesn't equal increased readiness. Still, this is the Browns, and everyone knows how this goes. Once Flacco has one more poor performance, and let's be honest, it's coming, the fan base will beg for a new face behind center. The coaching staff, especially a desperate one trying to save its job, may cave. And Gabriel will be launched into the starting role not because he passed a test, but because there were no better choices. That kind of promotion comes with danger, because the moment he steps on the field, he's not just the next man up. He's the guy fans will judge against Sanders, against Flacco, maybe even against Watson if that ever becomes relevant again. And if Gabriel struggles early, with batted down screens, stalled drives, or slow reads, the public patience won't last longer than a quarter or two. In fact, we've already seen what that reaction might look like. When Gabriel came in for mop-up duty recently, fans didn't chant with excitement. They held their breath. There was no energy shift, no rally moment, just curiosity and a quiet, unspoken skepticism. And look, it's not like Gabriel doesn't have tools. He's mobile. He throws well on the run. His quick-release motion, when he's confident, is clean and dangerous at the short to intermediate levels. Coaches don't dislike him. They just don't trust him yet. And in the NFL, trust is everything. What happens next isn't about ceiling. It's about whether this franchise is willing, once again, to throw a quarterback into the fire, not to save the season, but to buy time on the clock. Because Dylan Gabriel's name is coming, probably soon. But when that moment hits, one question will define everything. Is he stepping in to lead or to fail faster than the guy before him? If Dylan Gabriel is the technician in progress and Joe Flacco is the aging placeholder, then Shadeur Sanders is the lightning bolt no one's sure how or when to release. He's not just a quarterback. He's already a storyline, a symbol, a fan movement. And in the middle of Cleveland's spiraling quarterback chaos, he might be the most intriguing figure of all. The calls for Shedeur didn't start in preseason. They started the day he was drafted. From the moment he stepped onto the Browns roster, fans labeled him the future. Not because he had NFL snaps under his belt, but because his name came attached to something Cleveland has been starving for: hope. His college film is electric, his swagger is elite, and his pedigree as Deion Sanders' son adds just enough stardust to captivate a franchise forever in rebuild mode. But the real fire? That's coming from fans who believe Shedeur isn't just raw potential. He's already better than the guys ahead of him. And they just might be right. According to training camp reports, Sanders consistently looked sharper than expected. He made tight window throws, managed pressure surprisingly well, and flashed a deep ball touch that, while unrefined, forced staff to take notes. Even players were impressed. One defensive veteran reportedly said, "He's got more juice than the other guys. You can feel it." But Sanders' limited reps, with mostly second and third string units, meant fans didn't get the full picture. Still, that hasn't stopped them from pushing his name into every conversation. Chants of "We want Shedeur" echoed in the final minutes of Week 2. Instagram Reels highlight his preseason scrambling touchdowns. TikToks splice his Colorado highlights with Browns practice footage. #FreeShedeur trends weekly. And yet, the coaching staff continues to treat him like an afterthought. Kevin Stefanski won't say his name when asked about the QB room. When pressed, he pivots to shutting down speculation. "We're focused on the starters we have. We're building week to week." Translation: we don't have a plan yet, and we're afraid to admit it. From the outside, it's chaos. But from inside the facility, sources say Sanders is calm, composed, and preparing like someone who knows his time is coming. He's not campaigning for it. He's not going on podcasts or feeding the hype. He's just waiting. And that's important, because Shedeur knows the danger of debuting too early and too unprepared. He's grown up in the spotlight, seen how football media can burn hot and cold, and understands this league chews up young quarterbacks faster than any fan base admits. One ugly game and the same fans chanting your name can turn on a dime. Still, whispers persist. Some in the building believe the Sanders moment could come before Halloween. Some say before the London game. One insider claimed the only reason he hasn't played yet is because the building isn't ready for what follows once he steps in. In other words, once you go with Shedeur, there's no going back. No quarterback carousel. No just trying something new. He's not a test drive. He's a handover of the keys, and that's what makes this situation incredibly high risk and potentially franchise-altering. If Sanders gets his chance too early and struggles, critics will use it to attack him and the Browns for rushing development. If he shines, the narrative flips overnight, and suddenly you have a new face of the franchise, a rookie quarterback that fans actually believe in, something the Browns haven't had in years. Timing is everything. Right now, Sanders is Cleveland's ace in the hole. He's not the next man up. He's the right man waiting for the right moment. And if the Browns play this correctly, that moment will energize the entire organization. But if they blow it, if they wait too long, or worse, throw him into a failing system with no support, they won't just ruin their season. They'll risk ruining the one chance they haven't already burned. While fans scream for change and players churn through the quarterback carousel, one man is holding the clipboard and barely holding on to his job: Kevin Stefanski. If the Browns were a corporation, Stefanski would be the CEO, whose shareholders are losing faith by the day. And unfortunately, in the NFL, when the product fails and the trust evaporates, it's only a matter of time before the guy at the top is the first one out. Let's rewind just a bit. When Stefanski arrived in Cleveland a few years ago, he was heralded as the grown-up in the room, the steady hand after years of chaos. His disciplined approach, run-game-first philosophy, and calm demeanor were a welcome shift from the usual high-drama Browns narrative. And early on, it worked. He helped turn Baker Mayfield into a functional starter, won a playoff game, and looked like someone who could finally stabilize one of the NFL's most volatile franchises. Fast forward to now, and that reputation is turning to ash. The Browns are winless, rudderless, and visibly frustrated. The offense looks dated. The quarterback decisions feel reactive, and the clock on Stefanski's offensive genius label has expired. What's worse, he seems caught between defending veterans and fearing the fallout of promoting rookies. And in doing so, he's losing both sides. Watch any press conference and the patterns are clear. Stefanski is noticeably tight-lipped on quarterback questions. He dodges straight answers. When pressed on Flacco's performance, his mantra is consistently vague. We win and lose as a team. When asked about Gabriel, silence. Shedeur, full PR deflection. Behind the scenes, league insiders are starting to murmur. Stefanski's voice is growing quieter in the building. The team's higher-ups, particularly front office leadership, are reportedly becoming more active in quarterback discussions, and not just in theory. Some sources suggest the split in direction is delaying decisions. While Stefanski prefers to stick with experience and familiarity, others inside the organization, perhaps even ownership, want to lean into youth and potential. And that tug-of-war is where things collapse. Because in the NFL, hesitation kills momentum. Locker rooms sense indecision. Players know when confidence is smoke. And in Cleveland, you don't need to read minds to read the room. Receivers cutting routes short. Linebackers talking about missed opportunities. Even defensive standouts are breaking character to admit fatigue from carrying games. And Stefanski, more isolated by the week. His style has always been even keel, not the type to shout, slam headsets, or stir controversy. But when that stoic approach turns into what looks like indecision, players check out. The locker room doesn't rally around calm. They rally around decisive. Right now, Stefanski looks anything but. The hottest of hot takes are already starting to surface, mostly from fans, some from media. Should the Browns make a coaching change mid-season? Is Stefanski holding back the offense, or just scared of letting it evolve? If he won't unleash Gabriel or Sanders, is he the right guy to lead this roster at all? And none of that even begins to touch the personnel problems coming from the front office, where GM Andrew Berry, also growing unpopular, is getting looped into the blame. So what's keeping Stefanski in place right now? Maybe ownership still supports him. Maybe leadership doesn't want a mid-season optics mess. Or maybe, just maybe, they're giving him one final stretch to prove that his version of the Cleveland Browns can still work. If he's going down with the Flacco Gabriel Sanders timeline on his watch. But here's the problem. If he waits too long, that coaching title might not stay his much longer. Because in the NFL, the guy making the quarterback decisions isn't always the one calling the plays. And once that's gone, so is the job. What starts as a quarterback issue can easily turn into a locker room problem. But when that degenerates into GM whispers, ownership tension, media mockery, and a collapsing fan base, that's not a controversy. That's a franchise spiral. And right now, the Cleveland Browns are staring down the barrel of exactly that. At a glance, it doesn't look hopeless. They have a top-tier defense, young offensive talent, 2 first-round picks in next year's draft, and arguably the most passionate fan base in the league. On paper, they should be a team primed for progress. And yet, here they are, winless, leaderless, and directionless. Again. It starts obviously with the quarterback carousel. Week 1 opened with Joe Flacco lobbing floaters like it was his last tour. Week 2 brought Dylan Gabriel whispers. Now Week 3 has social media begging for Shadeur Sanders, with hashtags trending and seats in the stadium getting emptier by the quarter. Each quarterback change feels less like a plan and more like throwing darts blindfolded. And through all of it, there's no stability, just a recurring headline. Another Browns quarterback rotation. The coaching staff isn't aligned. The front office, led by GM Andrew Berry, is taking heat for the lack of vision. The 4 QB circus in camp now looks like a red flag in hindsight. You can't find your guy if you're handing out equal snaps to everyone and waiting for fate to decide who emerges. And let's talk about that. There was no real plan. Insiders say the reps were never proportioned properly. Gabriel got time with the backups. Sanders got even less. Flacco got first-team reps, but no one seemed to believe he'd last past October. Meanwhile, Watson was doing private workouts. For what? Nobody seems to know. Fans joke that the team's quarterback strategy involved opening a fortune cookie and seeing who's closest to healthy. Behind the scenes, it's worse. Multiple league sources suggest Haslam and the front office wanted faster action, pressure to pivot to youth, to start Gabriel earlier, to give Sanders a real QB battle. Stefanski reportedly pushed back, and now he's on an island. But the ripple effects don't stop with coaches. Players feel it. They've watched scoring remain stagnant. They've lost winnable games while holding opponents under 20 points. Star defenders are racking up pressures and sacks. Meanwhile, the offense is punting away momentum. The disconnect is emotional now. One veteran reportedly told a reporter off record, "We're supposed to be a playoff team, but nobody can even figure out how to get a first down." Fan trust has also eroded fast. What started as nervous optimism in Week 1 has become jeering frustration in Week 3. The chants are louder. The paper bags are back. Local radio shows are calling Browns management directionless. Online, the memes are relentless, with fans editing jerseys to add Gabriel, Sanders, and even Deshaun Watson to the infamous list of 30-plus Browns QBs since 1999. The spiral is real, and the worst part? It's predictable. We've seen it before. A veteran benched late, a rookie thrown in too early, a coach begging for time, and a front office claiming patience. Until the record hits 0-4 and patience becomes impossible. It's why national outlets now talk about the Browns with irony. A talented team, again stuck in self-inflicted chaos. A fan base constantly being told, just wait, the quarterback of the future is coming. But never told why the present keeps looking like the past. At some point, even stability looks like a risk to people this used to instability. The Browns have the pieces, yes, but unless someone, anyone, takes control of the spiral, unifies the voices, and builds a real plan behind center, they're not just wasting talent, they're wasting time. Again, if there's one thing the Browns could always count on, no matter the score, no matter the drama, it was the fans. Cleveland loves football like few cities in America. There's pride, there's tradition, and there's a level of emotional investment that turns every Sunday into something sacred. But here's what happens when you betray that kind of loyalty. You get the revolt. What started as frustration after Week 1 became visible disgust by Week 2. Fans didn't just boo, they left. By the fourth quarter against Baltimore, seats were empty, concession lines dead, and chants of "We want Shedeur" echoed across rows of fans wearing paper bags on their heads. Then came the signs, hundreds of them. Some crossed out Flacco's name. Others demanded that Stefanski be fired. A few simply read, "We've seen this movie before." Local sports radio completely turned. Callers no longer asked about player stats, they wanted heads. Fans weren't saying we need to improve. They were asking why this team exists at all. Some were openly begging for the team to tank just to draft another quarterback, as if that would finally be the golden ticket. And it wasn't just in Cleveland. Social media exploded. Browns Twitter, aka Browns X now, thanks to Elon Musk, became a war zone. Fans arguing over whether Gabriel deserved a better shot. Others insisting that only Sanders could restore faith. TikTok creators stitched together clips of quarterbacks failing throws with circus music. One viral tweet simply read, "I've been watching Browns football for 21 years, and I've seen all 21 quarterbacks. I'm not doing year 22 unless they play Shedeur." The jersey meme officially came back into the national spotlight. You know the one. The guy who wears an old Tim Couch jersey with a duct tape scroll of every QB named since, now standing on the dog pound steps, holding a Sharpie. Last week, he added 2 more names. This week, he left space for a third. It's beyond anger at this point. It's comedy. Sad, tired comedy. A group of fans even started a GoFundMe for an aerial banner to fly over the stadium during the Packers game. Let Shedeur cook. Hashtag FreeQB1. The kicker? They didn't just meet the fundraising goal. They doubled it in 24 hours. Local reporters covering the team say they've never seen a goodwill swing this sharp. One longtime media member said, "Cleveland doesn't boo out of hate. They boo out of pain." And right now, you can feel how burned out people are. And yet, the front office remains quiet. Stefanski repeats the same answers. Barry doesn't appear at pressers. Ownership hides behind statements crafted by PR interns. And each time the fans scream louder, the silence from the podium makes them feel more ignored. That's when the danger escalates. Not when fans boo, but when fans stop showing up. ... Already, ticket resale platforms are showing huge dips in resale value. Stadium vendors report slower traffic, and local businesses, particularly bars around the stadium, said Week 2's post-game hit was like the day after a funeral. All of this is happening in the middle of a season that was marketed as a turning point. A team that has cap space, draft capital, top 5 talent defensively, and arguably its most promising rookie class in over a decade, is teeing up one of its ugliest public breakdowns, not just in record, but in relationship. Because Browns fans don't ask a lot, but they do ask for 2 things. Play the best guy, tell him the truth. And right now, Cleveland is doing neither. Sanders sits. Gabriel's development is being mismanaged. Flacco's still taking starters reps. And everyone, from the front office to the media booth, is pretending it's a process. There's no more process. There's only this. Win the fans back fast, or risk losing them. The Browns aren't just in a slump. They're at the edge of organizational collapse. And all it might take is one more play, one more decision, one more mistake to tip it over for good. At this point, every direction leads to mayhem. Stick with Joe Flacco for another game? Expect another 4 quarters of sluggish drives, frustrated teammates, and dead air offense. The fan base has already turned. The locker room's patience is wearing thin. And every additional snap he takes feels like delaying the inevitable. Go to Dylan Gabriel next? You risk everything in a new way. The kid already carries the label of being a raw project, and many players have seen up close he's not ready to be the guy. Worse, once he's in, all eyes will shift from Flacco's collapse to Gabriel's growing pains. If he fails, it might not just cost the Browns a game. It might cost Gabriel his confidence permanently. And then there's Shadeur Sanders, the player fans are begging to see. The problem? Once you burn that card, you can't put it back in the deck. Starting Shedeur would electrify the city. It might even breathe life into the locker room, especially if the offense suddenly popped. But what if it backfires? What if protections break down, his timing falls apart, and he looks like the rookie he is? In a market like Cleveland, that failure wouldn't mean wait and develop. It would mean instant backlash. Fans are desperate, yes, but they're not patient. One bad pick, and the same people chanting his name could flit by halftime. So what now? That's the vicious part of quarterback purgatory. Every option comes with damage, and you bleed the moment you pick one. Word inside the building is that the front office has started preparing for all scenarios. Plans are in place to pivot if Flacco flames out by halftime against the Packers. Playbooks are split to allow for Gabriel or Sanders to step in on short notice. Quarterback coaches are reportedly staying late with all 3, not because they expect anyone to start, but because they don't know who will last. And we haven't even touched on the noise from above. Ownership is said to be growing increasingly hands-on. Jimmy Haslam made headlines last year for his aggression, And now, insiders say people in that front office are nervous about another owner-led fix if the team drops to 0-3. The Browns have always made headlines for cleaning house. But what happens when the house is already burning and nobody wants to admit it? One more loss, and Haslam could step in. One more bad start, and the locker room could turn. One more press conference, full of excuses from Stefanski, and the media could explode. The stakes are enormous, not just for the record, but for the culture of the team. Playbooks are split to allow for Gabriel or Sanders to step in on short notice. Quarterback coaches are reportedly staying late with all three, not because they expect anyone to start, but because they don't know who will last. And we haven't even touched on the noise from above. Ownership is said to be growing increasingly hands-on. Jimmy Haslam made headlines last year for his aggression, and now insiders say people in that front office are nervous about another owner-led fix if the team drops to 0-3. The Browns have always made headlines for cleaning house. But what happens when the house is already burning and nobody wants to admit it? One more loss, and Haslam could step in. One more bad start, and the locker room could turn. One more press conference full of excuses from Stefanski, and the media could explode. The stakes are enormous, not just for the record, but for the culture of the team. Right now, players are still showing up. They're still saying the right things, but that only lasts as long as there's a path forward. One more embarrassing game filled with delay of games, empty seats, and broken plays, and people stop buying in. Maybe it's as simple as just name a starter, give him full reps, and ride it out. But Cleveland hasn't gone simple in years. They've done patchwork headlines, off-script depth charts, draft reaches, reputation signings, and Band-Aid fixes. And now they've boxed themselves in. There's no safe option left. All that exists now are varying levels of risk. And one of them will have to be chosen in front of a packed stadium and millions of people watching. So which move comes next? That's the crazy part. Nobody seems to know. Or worse, everyone has a different answer. But the clock is ticking, and the team standing on the edge of a breakthrough could just as easily step into oblivion. All it takes is one snap too late. This isn't just a team trying to win. It's a franchise trying not to blow itself up. The Browns don't just have a quarterback issue. They have an identity crisis, heading into what could become a turning point or a total teardown. Cleveland finds itself circling a question it's asked year after year, regime after regime. What kind of team are we? Because the truth is hard to ignore. Through all the jerseys with scratched-out quarterback names, through all the slogans, the hope, the top draft picks, the "this time will be different" speeches, the Browns are still figuring out who they are. Or worse, they know exactly who they are and just haven't been willing to fix it. The fan base, it's not disconnected. It's desperate, hungry, loud, and absolutely ready to rally. But Cleveland fans don't rally behind brands. They don't rally behind PR campaigns. They rally behind belief. And this team has done a terrible job giving them anyone to believe in. One week it's Flacco. Next week, maybe Gabriel. Shedeur might be called up before Halloween. Watson lurks like an unresolved headline from 2022. This isn't football strategy, it's panic shopping. Rotating names into headline slots without choosing someone and sticking with them. The only way out? Commit. Pick a direction, take a risk, announce it, mean it, and make sure the locker room hears it first. If it's Flacco, which it shouldn't be, adapt the system to protect him. Limit the playbook, lean on defense, and just survive the next few weeks. If it's Gabriel, name it loud. Say he's the guy. Give him all the work, all the weight, and let the offense grow around him the way good teams develop good quarterbacks. If it's Sanders, and let's be honest, that might ignite the entire city, then prepare for pain. Because even if he brings upside and energy, he's still a rookie. There will be bad throws, growing pains, learning losses. But if the locker room feels you're building towards something real, they'll wait in the fire with you. The one thing Cleveland cannot afford anymore is the halfway solution. The "we'll reevaluate next week" mindset. The "we're just trying to win now" excuses that lead to 7-10 seasons and coaching searches in January. It's not working. This roster is better than its leadership. The defense is elite. The skill players are ready. The locker room has young talent hungry for consistency. The city dying to stop starting over. And the front office has a chance, right now, to stabilize something that's been spinning for decades. That doesn't happen often. It's not just about quarterback play. It's about trust. Trust the guy you believe in. Invest in him. Defend him. Build for him. Because if Cleveland delays again, if they wait until week 6 to reorganize, or try to slide Sanders in quietly, or bench Gabriel mid-game out of politeness, they lose more than games. They lose the buy-in, the locker room, the city, the momentum. And this isn't a franchise that can afford another reset. Whether the next starter earns the job, gets the job, or inherits it by default, it needs to be his job. No more rotation. No more speculating after every loss. No more coaching staff guessing what the front office wants. The identity crisis doesn't get cured with a quarterback change, but it ends with a quarterback commitment. That is the only way out.